like to work all the way through a project. I'm not the kind of person who designs and lets someone else figure it out. I kind of like to figure it out as it evolves, and lots of ideas come up. I was inspired by Frank Lloyd Wright. I studied with Gropius, and I studied with Mies van der Rohe. These were the visionaries of our age. And I just hope that I push the ball a little farther.
The most amazing thing is that she was in the architectural offices of SOM, and she was actually occupying drawing boards instead of a receptionist desk.
Her contribution is definitely twofold. The progress she made so that women can be architects, and then the progress she made as a designer.
She really hasn't changed very much, or at least somewhere along the line her hair must have gotten gray, but I don't remember when that happened. No, Gertrude was very strong, and that was at a time when there weren't very many women that were in architecture offices. Most of them got shunted aside into interior design.
She was a couple of decades ahead of her time in terms of her profession, and then how that profession evolved from being an architect to a developer and a salesperson and a general contractor.
It's not only just a profession, it's really been a lifestyle. It's been a life, and it's been a very exciting life for me. I grew up on the northwest side of Chicago. My mother was an immigrant from, it's called White Russia, which is Polish and Russian. My father was a German immigrant from southern Germany. We spoke English at home. We were very poor. My father was a teamster. He was a laborer all his life. My dad was very stubborn, and so that's one of the things I learned. And I had the usual Chicago public school exposure, grammar school and high school, Foreman High School. I was always joining lots of things, so I tried to be I seemed to be interested in various activities. I liked to dance. Jitterbug was the name of the game, of the dance at that time. Well, after high school, I went to Wright Community College, and my father, it was his ambition always to have a farm, like he worked in, like he came from in Germany. So he bought a small farm in Wisconsin, and I attended the University of Wisconsin. While I was there, I read a Life article, magazine article on Frank Lloyd Wright, and I was so inspired. And they told me that Frank Lloyd Wright's Taliesin was right down the road, maybe 15 miles outside of Madison. So I immediately left the dorm and hitchhiked to Frank Lloyd Wright's Taliesin. It was like a group of houses, a group of buildings. And this particular building, we had glass going to the floor. In those times, we always had punched windows. Frank Lloyd Wright had brought glass all the way to the floor, to the walls. And so you can easily see into these living rooms and bedrooms, which is what I was looking into. As I was peering into this marvelous enchantment, I had heard heavy footsteps behind me, and I turned around thinking someone was going to scream at me, and it was a white peacock in fluttering, in full flutter. And anyway, it was so amazing. It was like an outer body experience. Anyway, so I eventually found a window open in the bathroom, and I crawled in, and I spent the night because it was now approaching dark. And I spent the night playing a Beethoven record. And the next morning, I had decided that I was going to be an architect. And I headed back to campus only to find that there was no architecture at the University of Wisconsin, and I would have to go to the University of Illinois, which I did. And because I had all these limited funds and money from savings, I had to telescope the time that I would spend, because now I had spent 2 years and then I decided what I was going to do. So I was doing zillions of courses all at once, and I got my degree, and I only could do that by getting a degree in architectural engineering. Now that was at the University of Illinois, and then I decided that I still wanted to have a regular architecture degree, and that's when I went to Harvard after that. They had already hired Gropius to head their architecture school. So everything we did, everything, including all the teachers, everything was modern. Now at the University of Illinois, that was all traditional, and that education was called Beaux-Arts, and that all harked back to the Beaux-Arts in France, in Paris. But Harvard was entirely different, and it was entirely modern, and everything, we were all trying to solve things with more modern materials, like we do today. However, I had to finance my way, so I also had to get a job. So I got a job with a very famous architect at that time. His name was Carl Koch, and he practiced in Boston, Massachusetts. He was a teacher at MIT, and so I worked in his studio, and it was a very exciting time. He had a commission from the Museum of Modern Art to design storage walls and a chair. And this was the same time the Museum of Modern Art gave Eames the same commission as he gave Carl, Eames in California, Carl in Boston, to design the chair. And Eames's chair has made history. It's gone on for the next 50 years. It was a beautiful experience, absolutely beautiful. I came back to Chicago. I thought that Mies van der Rohe at IIT was doing actually better architecture than was being done in Boston. So I thought, why am I going back to Boston when there's all this action in Chicago? That was it. That was the time to be in Chicago. I eventually started IIT, and I participated in all the lectures and everything that was happening that Mies was investigating. So when he would get an engineer to discuss a problem with him, he would do it with the students, and then I would listen in. But meanwhile, I had asked Mies if I could please do my own thesis. And he said to me, "You mean you want me to work on your project, and you don't want to work on my project?" And he said, no. So he never spoke to me again. So I went to IIT to study with Mies, and he turned me down. So, and then he went 2 or 3 years later, whatever it was, I did my thesis all by myself in a corner of the studio. So that was the end of that. So I graduated in '54. Oh, I had married about that time also. I married Walter Peterhans, who had come from Germany with Mies van der Rohe and with Ludwig Hilbersheimer to develop the school at IIT, to develop the architectural curriculum at IIT. He taught at the Bauhaus with Mies, and he developed the photography curriculum at the Bauhaus. I never was a student of his, but he was a very remarkable man, a brilliant man. He was 54. I was 24, 25 when I married him, but it was not a happy marriage, but it was a great time in my life. And my special prize was, of course, Julian. So my little baby was about 18 months when I graduated and when I left Peterhans.